It was an ordinary Tuesday morning in San Diego, the kind of day that seemed to promise nothing more than the usual, calm skies, light traffic, and the routine of work that awaited Jasmine. She had planned every moment of the day carefully, no surprises, just the satisfaction of marking off another accomplishment in her professional life. The car's engine hummed gently as she parked outside Capital Trust Bank, her favorite local branch. With a steaming cup of coffee in hand and a folder of important documents resting on the passenger seat, Jasmine adjusted the collar of her blazer with a practiced hand. She didn't just look the part of success, she embodied it, from her polished shoes to the way she carried herself with quiet confidence. Today was more than just another task, it was a significant milestone in her career, the culmination of years of hard work and sacrifice. Stepping out of her car, she paused for a moment, taking in the fresh air. The modern building before her reflected the bright sun, its sleek architecture symbolizing stability and trust. Inside, the atmosphere was cool, calm, and seemingly perfect. Jasmine had chosen this particular branch for its reputation, professional, discreet, exclusive. It was the kind of place where everything was in its right place, and she had never felt out of place before. She was ready to handle the business that awaited her, excited for the next step in her career. As she entered the building, the smell of fresh coffee mingled with the faint hum of conversations and the rhythmic click of keyboards. The polished marble floors gleamed under her feet, and everything felt pristine. But even as she stood in line, something in the air felt off, though she couldn't quite put her finger on it. She dismissed the feeling. Maybe it was just the weight of the moment. Today, after all, was about her success, and nothing, least of all a subtle feeling of discomfort, was going to take that away. When her turn came, she approached the counter confidently, heels clicking softly on the floor as she reached the teller. The man behind the counter, Paul, glanced up at her with a tired, almost indifferent expression. His name tag read Paul, and his graying beard suggested that he had been working at the bank for years. But there was a weariness in his eyes, a sense of disinterest that didn't sit right with her. She smiled warmly, offering her usual, professional greeting, "Good morning." He didn't respond with the same warmth, his eyes flicking briefly to meet hers before turning back to the computer screen. "What can I do for you?" he asked, his tone flat and detached. It wasn't an outright snub, but it was dismissive nonetheless. Jasmine, accustomed to this kind of treatment, refused to let it bother her. She slid her folder across the counter, explaining that she was there to process a significant wire transfer. "I've prepared all the necessary documentation," she said, her voice steady and calm. Paul's eyes flicked over the folder, then back at her. The briefest of pauses, a barely noticeable tightening of his mouth, and then he finally spoke, his voice curt. "I'll need a moment." The moment stretched on, as Jasmine watched Paul take the folder and move slowly toward the back office. Time seemed to slow. Around her, other customers were being attended to promptly, their needs met with quick smiles and smooth transactions. But not for her. Jasmine kept her posture upright, her expression neutral, though her mind churned with the subtle, sinking feeling that she wasn't being treated the same. The seconds felt like minutes as she waited. It was as if her presence alone had created an obstacle to the process, something she was all too familiar with. When Paul returned, his face was a mask, neutral, but with an air of finality. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely betraying any emotion. "There seems to be an issue with your paperwork. Do you have additional identification?" Jasmine's brow furrowed, confusion briefly flashing across her face. "Everything you need is in that folder," she replied, her voice calm but firm. "I double-checked before coming in." Instead of acknowledging her words, Paul took the folder from the counter and began to flip through the papers with exaggerated care, eyes narrowing as he scrutinized each page. There was something deliberate about the way he moved, a careful slowness that felt intentional. Jasmine knew in that moment that something wasn't right. She had seen this before, this subtle, unspoken bias, and it was happening again. He didn't just look at her with skepticism, he looked at her as if she didn't belong. As Paul took his time, Jasmine observed the others around her. Customers were being greeted, assisted, and sent on their way, but not her. Not this woman who had earned her place at this bank. She couldn't help but notice the difference, the stark contrast between how she was treated and how others were handled. Her time was being wasted, her dignity chipped away with every passing second. But Jasmine wasn't going to back down. "I need to speak with my manager," she said firmly, her voice not wavering despite the frustration building within her. Paul seemed almost annoyed by the request, but nodded. He didn't walk toward the manager's office. Instead, he casually strolled over to another counter, where he began chatting with a colleague, his body language relaxed, as if nothing was wrong. Jasmine stood still, forcing herself to remain composed. Every second that passed felt like a silent message that her time was less valuable than the others. And yet, she stayed rooted in place, a sense of quiet determination rising within her. Finally, Paul returned, holding her folder as though it was something foreign. His tone was clipped. "We'll need to verify your account further before proceeding," he said, almost as if delivering bad news. Jasmine's patience was wearing thin, but she kept her voice steady. "Is there an issue with the documents?" she asked. Paul hesitated, then shrugged. "It's just policy," he said, as if that explained everything. But it didn't. Jasmine's gaze never left him. She knew what he was implying, the unspoken words hanging in the air: she wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this bank, not in this space. "I've completed transactions like this before at other branches," Jasmine responded, her voice unwavering. "Without any problems." "This isn't just any branch," Paul said, the words almost dripping with smugness. "It's different here." The insinuation was clear. It wasn't just about the transaction, it was about her. And Jasmine could feel the weight of it. Instead of reacting, she calmly reached into her bag and pulled out a second form of identification, sliding it across the counter. "If there's anything else you need," she said, her voice cold but polite. Paul's lips tightened into a thin line as he took the ID. He didn't say another word, and once again, she was left waiting. The silence in the bank felt heavy now, and Jasmine couldn't help but notice how time seemed to move differently when it came to her. She glanced at her watch, her frustration simmering, but she refused to show it. She wasn't going to let them win.